my name's Tom. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna try to just show you guys is what I've had success with kind of like my intro sessions, first day, complimentary fitness evaluations, whatever you guys are calling it, but basically just like the first time you meet somebody in person. Generally speaking, again, you're gonna have some information already because hopefully you already spoke to this person on the phone. And then from there, that person would come in and you'd be like, hey, cool, the gym, like, what's your first impression? Make them think right away, kind of get them to say some things, ask some questions, and then I'll usually write those down. One of the biggest things that I try and get across is like what it is that I'm selling them or what it is that we're trying to provide. And what I'll do is I'll go through everything that they're kind of looking for. Oh, I'm just kind of bored at the regular gym type thing, whatever. I want to get stronger, fitter. I'm doing a ski event and I want to get more fit for that. Again, none of this really matters, as we've already talked about. But again, you kind of go back and forth, banter with the client, with the intro person, and then from there, trying to break it down kind of like so. So, MadLab School of Fitness. What is that? What does that mean? What does essentially that name, that business mean, and what is it associated with? So, number one, this is the most important thing that I want to get across to people, is this is a coaching facility. Make it very clear that if you're looking to punch in, punch out, show up whenever it's convenient, do whatever you want, for lack of a better word, just mess around in the corner, this is definitely not the right gym for you. From here, I talk about the programming, how that's laid out, why that's laid out the way that it is, and just give people an understanding as to what that is. From there, again, I'll be like, talk about the community aspect of it, why we tend to do things in sort of a group environment, what sort of extracurricular activities the gym offers for us. We have beach day, we have Nuts Cup, we have tribal elder, things like that. Every gym's gonna have their own thing, but just kind of plug in and be like, hey, that's the community of people that we have or that you have, more so than like the idea that everyone's here to get as fit as possible, because that's not necessarily true. And then the last thing that I'll usually talk about with somebody new is, again, if they've dove into like, yeah, I've tried to work out on my own, just can't find the time, or I can't make it work, or I just get bored at the gym, or whatever it is, you just say, you know what? The idea here is if you have a coach who's kind of keeping you on track, keeping you interested, keeping you invested, you have a program that's working for you, you're getting better over time, you're seeing slow, gradual improvements, and you have a place that you like to do it with people that you like to do it with, it's easier to stay on track, and it's easier to be accountable to yourself, basically. And that'll be like, that's essentially MadLab in a nutshell, right? This is what we provide people. And usually I'll get a pretty good information or pretty good understanding of what somebody feels about this right after these four kind of pillars, if you will. So from there, usually the client will ask something about like, hey, so what does the programming look like? So from there, I'll say, you know what, generally speaking, we're talking about kind of 3 ideas that we would practice. And they kind of go a little bit simpler to a little bit more complex. And again, you can spin this however way you want it, but it just gives you an idea of what would actually be the exercises that people would do. So let's say, you know what, we're gonna do basic cardiovascular exercise. From there, if you're coordinated and you can move, hey, let's talk about how you can move your body. What are you gonna do to move your body? Like, how are we gonna progress you from not being able to do a push-up on the floor to being able to do a push-up on the floor? From there, the idea is anything on a barbell. You can be like, you saw that person doing that, but they're able to do a squat without any weight first, right? They're able to like hold that position and be active, and that's why they're comfortable moving in that. I can't just give you a barbell and show you how to do that right away, because that might not work. And then people sort of generally start to see that it's like, okay, there's more to this than just showing up and doing the workouts. From there, I'll usually talk about kind of the idea that there's 4 movement patterns. So again, break it down. Everybody squats, everybody can hinge, everybody can push, and everybody can pull. And from there, I just very clearly say, I can make these as complex or as simple as possible. And then from there, I may throw in like the 10 general skills. It's kind of the only original, maybe first day thing that I would keep in there, just because people are always going to throw out the term, I want to be stronger, I want to be more flexible, I want to be faster, my balance is really bad. So then if you go ahead and say, okay, you know what? These are the kind of 10 things we want to practice, because most of the people who come here, like we talked about earlier, want to play with their grandkids, want to, do the grouse grind faster, or want to ski better, or play volleyball, or just not be sore and tired all the time, whatever. And then from there, people get a pretty good idea. They're like, oh wow, like there's a lot of sort of different things that go into the thought process of the programming here. Like, again, it's not just do these random workouts and show up and somehow that's gonna get you more fit. So from there, the programming is designed to shift every 6 weeks. So I talk about, hey, we're gonna go from a simple squat variation to a more complex squat variation over the course of whatever, 12 weeks, 36 weeks, 48 weeks. So I just talk about how every 6 weeks there's a programming shift. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean a lot to a lot of people, but it's important that you mention that, or it's important for me that I mention that, because it comes back to something that I want to tie into later. So from there, it's like, okay, let's talk about kind of what the next steps would be, should you be interested in kind of checking out how this thing works here, what it looks like in action. So I go, okay, we're at our intro session. Really the goal of today is to give you information about what we do and how we do it and why we do it. I'm here to get information about what you're looking for. What we offer is coaching and programming, and a fun place to do that. From there, what we do is we're going to move into a 3PT assessment. From there, it's really just about me getting information about how you move, if there's any problem areas, any things that sort of need to be immediately addressed. From there, there's kind of a 5 to 15 PT process. Now, I write 5 to 15 because I don't know how many it's going to be. I can't give you a concrete number, because if you learn everything really quickly and you pick up on everything and we don't have any limitations, then yeah, it might be less. And then from there, the next step is to move into this hybrid membership. Now, what I start to do is I start to talk about this hybrid membership before I even talk about prices to any of this stuff, because I think it's important that people know where they're trying to go rather than what the steps are to get there, at least for right now. So I'll say, hey, in this hybrid membership, this is where you're going to be attending the gym most of the time. You're going to be moving to classes. But what we also want to do is check in with you guys periodically. Now, what happens most of the time is I meet my clients 8 times a year, which is every 6 weeks. Now, the reason I do that is that's, how we're going to move into the next programming cycle together. And then there's this kind of transition phase like we talked about. Now, let's just dive into that just a little bit more. So let's say it looks something like this. We do our 3 PTs, then we do a block of 5, then we do a block of 5, and then let's just say we do a block of 3, something like that. So these first 13, we're really just learning everything. We're practicing the things that are going to come up in a class. We're making sure that you're comfortable with the things that may come up, and we're also sort of learning where you're at in sort of the hierarchy of movement, right? Now the back end, sort of the back 9 of these 3 PTs, if you will, we're starting to practice getting ready for classes more than we're practicing necessarily the things that come into classes. So there's kind of a transition here where your last 3, 4, 5 PTs might be like a class PT, class PT, class PT. So that way when you are sort of done and move into that hybrid situation, you're comfortable with everything that's going on. So the thing that I've had the most success with, and the reason I think that this whole thing works, is this is a very low commitment and people get to try it. So from here, I'm either taking them over to the desk, they're filling out a waiver, putting their system in the billing system, booking the 3 PTs, all 3 of them in advance, so that way they're concrete rather than one at a time, processing that payment, and then from there, that's the intro for the day. Regardless of whether they say yes or no, is what I want you to take away from this is the most important thing is what we're selling is coaching. Giving people an idea of how the system works rather than telling them what we do. Talk about how you're going to help them over the long term versus how you're going to help them today.